Before ruin touched its stones, Troy stood like a jewel upon the plain of Ilium. Its walls, vast and unbroken, shone in the sun, a gift once laid by the hands of gods themselves. They said Poseidon and Apollo, bound long ago to serve King Laomedon, had raised those walls so high that no mortal army could ever hope to breach them. Strong and gleaming, they seemed eternal. Within those walls lived a people proud and prosperous. Its markets bustled with merchants, its temples rose in devotion, and its palaces were filled with laughter, music, and light. The city glowed golden at dawn, and at night the torches along its towers shone like stars fallen to earth. Yet even in glory, shadows stretched. For outside its gates, across the wide plain, the Greek army had camped for 10 long years. Countless battles had raged, and countless warriors had fallen. The Scamander River had run red more times than men could count. Fathers had buried sons, and widows had raised their voices to the gods. Still, Troy endured. Behind its walls, life continued. Children played in its courtyards, maidens drew water from its fountains, and old men gathered at the Scaean gate to speak of fate. The people believed their city was blessed, that no army could topple the strength of gods. But beneath the splendor, sorrow had taken root. Hector, their greatest shield, the prince who had borne the weight of Troy upon his shoulders, now lay cold in the earth, slain by the wrath of Achilles. His death had left a silence in the city, a silence no festival, no prayer, no laughter could fill. Mothers whispered to their sons, wives clutched their husbands tighter, and the air itself seemed heavy with dread. For though the walls still stood, the heart of Troy had begun to tremble. The city of gold stood proud, but the shadow of doom had already fallen across its towers. The war had bled both sides for 10 long years, and the Greeks, weary of endless siege, sought not strength but cunning. For no spear had broken Troy's gates, no fire had pierced its walls. The city still stood defiant, though sorrow weighed upon it. Then Odysseus, wily as serpents and sharp of mind, rose among the Greeks with a plan. "No wall is so strong that wit cannot climb it," he said. "We will not break Troy with arms, but with their own belief." So the Greeks set their hands to a new labor. From the timbers of their ships, they built a horse vast as a temple, towering higher than the gates of Troy. Its flanks curved broad and smooth, its neck arched proud, and its eyes glimmered with painted life. Yet within its hollow belly, a host of the fiercest warriors lay hidden, Odysseus himself, Menelaus, Diomedes, and many more, chosen for their strength and resolve. When the horse was complete, the Greeks burned their tents and struck their camp. Their ships, sails dark as ravens, seemed to vanish across the sea. To the Trojans, watching from their walls, it seemed the enemy had at last abandoned the war, leaving only this strange gift upon the plain. The people of Troy gathered at the gates, marveling at the sight. They circled the towering horse, touching its vast wooden sides, their voices rising in wonder. Some said it was a holy offering to Athena, goddess of war, a symbol of Greek surrender and divine homage. Others doubted, whispering of traps and hidden guile. Yet in the hearts of many hope stirred for the first time in years. Could it be? Was the war truly ended? Had the gods themselves delivered victory into their hands? And so the horse stood silent before the gates, its belly full of warriors, its form a mask for ruin, while the Trojans argued over its fate. The people of Troy gathered in throngs about the great horse, marveling at its size, debating its meaning. Some urged to drag it into the city as a trophy of their endurance. Others counseled caution, for the Greeks were cunning, and gifts left by enemies are seldom free. Among them stood Laocoon, priest of Poseidon, his eyes blazing with fury. He lifted his voice above the crowd, sharp and unyielding. "Fools! Do you not see their treachery? After 10 years of slaughter, do you believe the Greeks depart in silence, leaving us this prize? I tell you, there is deception here. A trick hides in this wood." The crowd murmured, restless. Laocoon strode forward, spear in hand, and hurled it against the horse's flank. The iron tip sank deep, and from within the hollow belly a dull echo rang, hollow, empty, like the rumble of hidden life. The Trojans froze. Some whispered that they had heard the sound of armor clattering inside. Hope flickered, then wavered. Doubt spread like shadow, but even as doubt took root, fate struck its cruel hand. From the sea came a terror. The waters foamed and broke, and from the deep surged 2 monstrous serpents, vast as towers, their coils glistening, their eyes burning red. With dreadful cries they slithered upon the shore, seizing Laocoon and his sons. Their coils crushed bone and flesh alike, their jaws tearing his voice into silence. The people shrieked in horror as the priest, once their guardian, perished in agony beneath the god's wrath. The Trojans, trembling, saw in this not warning but judgment. "Behold," they cried, "Laocoon has offended Athena. He struck the sacred gift, and now the goddess has punished him. The horse is holy, we must honor it, not destroy it." And so the people turned from wisdom to folly. Laocoon's blood still stained the sand, but his warning was forgotten. The horse remained vast and silent, its doom hidden within. Above on the walls, Cassandra, cursed daughter of Priam, raised her voice in prophecy. She cried, "Ruin! Fire and blood await you if the horse enters these gates." But the curse lay heavy upon her. Though her words were true, no ear would believe her. Thus the voices of fate were silenced, and the path of Troy bent toward its doom. The sun fell beyond the hills, and with its setting the Trojans dragged the horse within their walls. Great ropes strained, wheels groaned, and men pulled with shouts of triumph. Step by step the massive beast was hauled through the Scaean gate, where Hector once stood, where countless battles had raged. The people swarmed about it with torches and song. Children laughed and touched its wooden flanks. Women scattered flowers in its path, and warriors lifted their arms in salute. To them it was a monument of victory, a prize of endurance, a sign that the gods had finally smiled upon Troy. Night came, heavy and warm, and the city rejoiced. Wine flowed in the halls of Priam. Music filled the courtyards, and laughter, long silent, echoed through the streets. After 10 years of war, the Trojans believed peace had returned. The guards upon the towers relaxed, their eyes heavy with drink. Mothers sang their children to sleep without fear, but within the horse's hollow belly silence held. The Greek warriors crouched, their hands on sword and spear, their breath tight in their chests. They listened as Troy celebrated, waiting for the signal that would change joy into ruin. Midnight came, and with it the sea stirred. Black sails moved silently across the water. The Greek fleet, hidden beyond the horizon, now returned. Their oars cut through the waves without sound, their torches masked, their hearts fierce with hunger for conquest. Then, upon the plain, the belly of the horse groaned. A hatch opened, and shadows slipped into the night. Odysseus, Menelaus, Diomedes, and their chosen warriors crept down ropes into the sleeping city. With swift hands they struck down the watchmen and flung wide the gates. From the sea the Greeks poured in, their torches blazing, their swords flashing. In an instant, the night of joy turned into a night of terror. The bells of Troy clanged too late. The people woke not to music but to screams. Fire burst upon the houses, flames climbing the towers. Priam's halls, once filled with gold, now echoed with the clash of steel and the cries of the dying. And so, in the silence of midnight, the city of Troy, proud and golden, was betrayed not by strength but by trust. The horse that had stood as a gift now delivered death. The night of fire had begun. The night blazed red. Flames devoured the streets, climbing from roof to roof until all the city glowed like a furnace. The smoke rose to the heavens, carrying with it the cries of the dying and the wails of the living. The Greeks flooded through the alleys, their swords wet with blood, their torches dripping fire. No home was spared, no shrine was safe. The temples of the gods shook as the invaders stormed them, their altars overturned, their statues toppled. Even the sacred ground could not protect Troy. In the palace, old Priam clung to the altar of Zeus, his frail body trembling as the enemy broke into his halls. Once he had ruled as a king of kings, but now he was only a broken man before the storm. Neoptolemus, son of Achilles, cut him down without pity, his blood soaking the stones of his own hearth. With him fell the last light of Troy's house. In another chamber, Andromache, Hector's widow, was torn from her child's side. Her little son, Astyanax, the last heir of Hector's blood, was seized by the Greeks and hurled from the high walls of the city. The cries of his mother rose sharper than the flames, piercing the night with grief no words could hold. Cassandra, cursed prophetess, fled to the temple of Athena, clutching the goddess's statue. But she too was dragged away, her cries of truth and doom echoing unheard as they always had. And in the shadows of the palace, Helen was found. Menelaus, her husband wronged, raised his sword to strike her down, Yet when his eyes fell upon her beauty, unchanged even after years of war, his wrath faltered. His hand trembled, his blade lowered. Helen lived, though her name would forever carry the weight of Troy's ruin. By dawn, the proud towers of Ilium were no more. The walls that gods had built lay blackened, the gates splintered, the streets choked with ash and ruin. The cries of Troy faded into silence, broken only by the crackle of fire and the tread of victors. The city of gold, the city of gods, was gone. Troy, beloved and accursed, lived now only in memory and in song, and thus ended the war that had consumed kings, heroes and nations alike, not with glory upon the battlefield, but with fire, betrayal, and the sorrow of the innocent.